Good evening, everybody. My name is Seth Knopp. I'm Sounding's artistic director, and it's a pleasure to have all of you here this evening. I wanted to also just tell you that you have an insert in your program, and that is 4 concerts that will be next season's Soundings program. It's our 10th season. And the time has gone quite quickly from my perspective. But when I look back at the different performances that have happened here in this hall and different places in the center, it's quite a rich history already in a pretty short time. And one reason why we've been able to continue having these concerts is because this audience is really one of the most special audiences that I've ever experienced. You're people that come here very, very open to take your experiences away with you, not judging them. It's not about liking or disliking, but really experiences that are thought-provoking. And that kind of an audience is rare indeed. And I want you to know that personally I'm very grateful to all of you for having supported Soundings for all of these years. I also want to thank Jeremy Strick, the director of the Nasher, who entrusted me with this wonderfully fun thing to do almost 10 years ago. It's been a real labor of love and really fun. So I thank you, Jeremy, and thank all of you. Please, thank you. Thank you. And my only response to the applause is thank you and enjoy the performance. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. We're so pleased to be here at the Nasher, and we want to thank everybody here who's been so amazing, and also to Seth Knopp and the whole Yellow Barn team, and it's just really incredible to be here. And we've actually talked about bringing this project here since it was actually developed at Yellow Barn several years ago, so we're delighted. So we began with a piece by our friend Kinan Azmeh, the great Syrian clarinetist. He's also was Kathy's roommate for many years, so he's really like a brother to us. And this piece was the perfect piece for this project. And Kathy wants to tell you a little bit about it. Are you about ready?
I forgot that was my turn. That piece, November 22, was written by Kinan when he had been in the country about 7 or 8 years. He moved here from Syria to the US in 2000. And he found himself at a Thanksgiving table. It was one of those rare Thanksgivings which fell on November 22nd. And finding himself feeling very at home at his friend's house. And then feeling a strange mix of sort of joy at being at home in a new place, and then wondering if he'd lost a part of himself by becoming at home somewhere else. And that, of course, in recent years, that was written in about 2007, 2008, and since then, it's taken on an extra significance, this piece, given what has been happening in Syria for these last few years. And I think he really captures that sense of nostalgia and sort of mixed feelings really quite beautifully in that song, November 22.
Yes, and so we're going to continue now with 2 pieces by another friend of ours, the composer, the iconoclastic saxophonist and composer John Zorn. Several years ago, John gave me about 8 pieces from his huge collection called the Book of Angels. And he just, basically they were just tunes, lead sheets. Occasionally there would be a chord or 2 written down, but it's basically just melodies. And he said to me, go and put a band together and record these. So we did that, and we just felt like 2 of those songs that I recorded previously with my band would be perfect for our duo, for Breath and Hammer. And so we picked a couple. And this first one of this pair that we're going to do is called Ebuhuel. And Ebuhuel is the angel of omnipotence. And when you have a particular enemy that you would like to do in, you grab a shofar, a handy dandy hollowed out ram's horn made into a trumpet, kind of like a bugle, and you sound it to the north and to the west and to the east and to the south, and Ebuhuel will come and slay your enemy. A friendly angel, yes. And sometimes we feel in great need, here and there. You ready? I'm ready. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. So the next piece we're going to play from John Zorn's Book of Angels is a completely different kind of angel.
He's friendly.
Friendly, but vigilant, I would say. The guardian of the seventh heavenly hall. And these angels are mentioned, what, in the Talmud, or they're actually in biblical texts. So we didn't make this up, or John Zorn didn't make this up. These are really these angels are mentioned, but we don't know that much about them. But I think our imagination can tell. So this one is Parzial, and I think the feeling of the piece that John wrote is completely different. And by the way, a lot of the things I say might be slightly informational, but also it's biding time, because Kathleen, as you can see, is busy inside the piano. Each piece that we do has a completely different setup with very simple elements, scarves, pieces of paper, bows, cello bows that she puts in there, chains, and sealed boxes of toothpaste. They just actually add a little weight to the strings, kind of like little mutes to give it a little special extra sound. So, how you doing over there? One more chain. The chain is going in. She said, keep your comments pithy today. So I'm trying to keep them pithy, but yet give her enough time to do what she has to do. Yeah. All right. We're ready to rock this one. All of these pieces actually are by friends and close associates. The next piece, Schron by Roberto Juan Rodriguez, is a piece that comes from a project that Roberto put together a number of years ago called El Danzón de Moisés. And he's a Cuban American, came to the United States as a small boy, and became a professional musician very quickly. His father was a trumpet player. Roberto is a percussionist, a drummer. And so they got to Miami. And of course, in Miami, if you're Cuban, you're playing Cuban weddings and different kinds of functions. But also in Miami, they ended up playing a lot of Jewish weddings and functions, which was a great crossbreeding of cultures. And so Roberto really feels very close to Jewish culture. And he thought there was a small, fragile community of Jews still left in Cuba. And he thought, what if they had not been decimated and they had been able to make their own music? And he came up with an imaginary Jewish Cuban music, which is, so he took the Cuban dance form El Danzón and kind of made this whole lovely group of pieces around that. So, without further ado, here is Schron by Roberto Juan Rodriguez.
piece is a piece of mine entitled Berimbau. And Berimbau is a Brazilian instrument, which is a big cousin to some instruments that are found in the region where I was born, which is an area called the Eastern Cape in South Africa. And the berimbau is basically, it's a large bow instrument. It looks sort of like a hunting bow, but a big one. And the cousins in South Africa, uhadi and umkhube are my two favorite. There's a lesibe, which is also a mouth bow. There's all sorts of different bows, but uhadi and umkhube are my two favorites. And they're like small little hunting bows. And the one, they have a single string, and one is resonated with a pumpkin calabash gourd on the chest, and the other one is resonated in the mouth. And basically, you have two notes, and you stop the string, like you would with a violin or a cello or anything else, where you stop the string, and it changes the note, right? So you have basically two main fundamentals, and then you can get all sorts of really cool overtones. And so the overtones are all of the spectrum of sort of whistle tones that you get above the main note. And string players use it a lot, wind players use it a lot, pianists never use it. So I was having a bit of string player envy. And seen as the piano, it's a percussion instrument because its strings are hit by hammers. But we have this wealth of strings inside. And if you put on a non-magic surgical glove, gotten from your local CVS or anywhere else, I'm open to endorsements for surgical gloves, you can touch the copper strings, which they don't like being touched otherwise because of, corrosion.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is my method, so that's why I'm wearing a glove, is just so that I can touch the copper. And what I decided to do was to take just the idea of the single string as a starting point. And to start off, you'll hear two main fundamental notes in the beginning. And before that, there's an introduction where it's just based on harmonics. So the entire introduction is on one single string. And it's really fun. And then you'll hear two main fundamental notes throughout the piece. And then the rest just sort of happened to take on all sorts of New York City and everything else. But I wrote this piece in 2014, which was a big year for South Africa. This is another big year, 25 years since our first ever elections. And it was just, I spent the year writing a lot of music that was where I was thinking about home and what that meant, and living very far away from it, and again, what that meant to be from where I'm from, and just how I went through life and how I identified as being who I am. So this piece, Berimbau, and here we go.
Thank you very much. The next piece we're going to play, Demon Chopper.
No, your own piece.
Oh, my piece. I nearly forgot. Oh, wow. And that's a glaring omission, not because it's my piece, but because that piece is really emblematic of our time up at Yellow Barn. We switched off our computers, switched off our phones, just hung out in Vermont in early September, just making music. I mean, this project could not have happened without the residency at Yellow Barn. So again, Seth, Yellow Barn, thank you so much. Really amazing work that they're doing there. What a magical place. And so we're, cooking stuff, local maple syrup flowing, just having a grand old time, going to the co-op, just having so much fun. She's frantically writing scores, and then I go off and do a hut with the recording engineer we brought, and because Kathleen was saying, well, I'm doing all this stuff with the piano samples, but you ought to do something with the clarinet, with samples kind of for the so-called accompaniment part, for the sort of nuts and bolts, the rhythmic parts. So I got together with Jay Eigenman, the engineer, and thought about the house we were living, and on a little dirt road full of ruts and holes and bumps, and every time a car would come by, it would make the most incredible racket. So this is called Rattling Down the Road. Yes. So now, Demon Chopper. So this is a composition by an accordion player I know in New York named Rob Curto. And he is a wonderful, wonderful musician. And, you know, to survive in New York as an accordion player, yeah, you got to do a lot of stuff. You got to do a lot of different genres, and so of course he's playing, you know, he's always telling me, yeah, I'm playing for the singer-songwriter, or I'm doing this or that. He played in my sort of neo-klezmer band, Klezmer Madness, and my acoustic klezmer quartet, you know, doing different traditional klezmer tunes and takes on my compositions, which are takes on the genre, but one of his big specialties is Brazilian forró music, and he is an absolute master at that. So we approached him and said, Rob, what cool forró piece, or one of your pieces, could we do? And he suggested this one, and he actually said that it was something about the melodic structure was influenced by his tenure in my band and by klezmer music. So, and I saw his point. It's interesting, the different repeated notes that you'll hear. And Kathleen will continue the story.
So we were actually on our way up to Yellowbarn to do our residency, and David says, okay, well, we've got this great piece, and it's a little lead sheet, and he plays Rob's version, which is this great full band, and Rob is going away on his accordion, and it's a terrific piece. But we were thinking, well, what are we going to do with that? You know, we don't play forró music. I absolutely love it. I think it's incredible. But it's not what we do. So what was amazing about all of these friends of ours was that they gave us permission. They gave us a piece and then gave us permission to do with it what we wanted. So just as we were driving along, and trying to think of ways and connections and things that would make sense. I had studied a lot of music from sub-Saharan Africa, and just a little bit from West Africa, not very much, but a little bit. And suddenly just thinking of the roots of Brazilian music and going back to the west coast of Africa and just thinking about where that rhythm was coming from, where all of that drive, that incredible richness. And so I actually went and found one of my favorite recordings, first ever so-called world music recording by the great Olatunji, Nigerian drummer, and actually did a lot of transcribing of his actual drum circles. He had all of these large-scale drum circles with different people playing different parts, and then went to the piano to see how I could find them in a friendly way to the piano. And so basically all of the sounds, as with everything in this program, are all they're made on the piano, but this was a big challenge to see how I could make an entire drum circle. So this is Rob Curto's forró. No, Demon Chopper.
Demon Chopper.
It changed names a few times.
Thank you so much. You know, really, as we've gone along, you know, we keep writing the rhetoric about this project and what is this and what does it all mean? And I think one of the things that we came up with, which was interesting, was we thought of a subtitle for it that didn't make it to this program, but really it's kind of the ties that all bind us. That it's an interconnectivity of music and sharing. A person gives you an idea and you come back with another idea, you know, in a respectful way, honoring the idea of the person who gave you the initial thought. And so that's kind of the vibe of what we're doing. So let me look at my program here. Oh yes, the next piece. How many hundreds of times have we done this? But it still doesn't stick in the brain sometimes. The next piece we're going to do is based on a little journey that I took to the former Soviet Republic of Moldavia back in 1989. It was still Soviet Union. And people would say to me, oh, well, you see all those Cyrillic letters? Well, actually, the language is basically Romanian. And so it was very interesting to go there. I was, at that time, just starting to get into Jewish klezmer music, the music of my cultural heritage. And I was trying to find musicians, and I was looking for people who still might play this style. And I actually found a person named Emil Kreutor, a great master musician. And the long and the short of it was that he came over to my hotel with a couple of his friends, a panpipe player, another clarinet player, and we spent a beautiful afternoon eating biscuits, playing music, and drinking delicious Moldavian wine. It was a great day. So this is a little portrait. This is Emil Kreutor's composition, our take on it. It's called Moldavian Journey, or Voyage, whatever. Thank you so much. So we're going to do one more piece for you. We've been now working actually on a recording of this project for the past 3 years. Kathy has been doing like most unbelievable amount of editing. It's kind of like weaving a medieval tapestry, literally with thousands of samples, on the Pro Tools loom. It's insane. But it is finally going to come out soon, so you can, follow us on social media and, we would love to stay in touch with you. So we're going to do one more piece for you now, and this piece is a co-composition of ours called The Geyser, which is a kind of a treatment of a traditional klezmer wedding tune, and the wedding tune sort of peaks out. And I'm preceding it with a short improvised, kind of semi-improvised, semi-composed solo clarinet piece. Every time I play this piece these days, I think of my family. I think of my family who came to the United States from Eastern Europe at the end of the 19th century, early 20th century, made the incredibly difficult journey, probably horse and carriage, got to the sea, took a boat across to America, and really, began a new life. And they got to the United States, they looked different, they dressed differently, they spoke differently, and they assimilated and they made a better life for my grandparents' generation, my parents' generation, my children's generation. So I would like to dedicate this to the bravery of my great-grandparents.